They told you it's hard. They told you to struggle, to hustle, to fight every step of the way. But what if the very thing you've been chasing, success, love, peace, wealth, was never meant to be forced? What if you were supposed to relax and simply allow it? This idea isn't new. In fact, it's a powerful principle taught by one of the most misunderstood minds of the 20th century, Neville Goddard. Neville didn't teach magic. He didn't sell illusions. He taught you how to use your mind not to escape reality, but to reshape it. In this video, you're about to uncover a truth that most people overlook. Manifestation doesn't happen when you're trying harder. It happens when you surrender deeper, when you stop chasing and start allowing. This isn't just motivation. It's a complete shift in how you view your life, a total rewire of your inner world. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why letting go may be the most powerful act you can ever do. Neville once said, "Be still and know." He didn't say try harder. He said, be still. And yet, stillness is the one thing we resist. We think we need to fix everything right now. But the truth, you're not here to control everything. You're here to imagine, to believe, and then to rest. Relaxation isn't weakness. It's power under control. It's the space where the impossible becomes possible. And here's the part no one talks about. Neville Goddard didn't just lecture in packed halls and write obscure books. He shared quiet revelations with individuals, men and women just like you, who had no idea that their entire world could shift by changing nothing except how they felt inside. People who were desperate, people who had tried everything, people who had given up until they discovered this one sacred principle: relax and allow. Not from laziness, not from giving up, but from deep trust, from the knowing that what is yours is already yours. And when you stop interfering, it begins to move toward you. Today, you'll learn how Neville explained this quiet power. You'll hear how your inner world shapes your outer reality. You'll understand why forcing doesn't work and what to do instead. We'll walk through why relaxing is not passive, but profoundly creative. The secret behind living in the end and how to truly feel it. How the unseen world is more real than what you can touch. And why the moment you stop worrying, it begins working. Stay with me until the end, because we're not giving you recycled motivation. We're giving you the key Neville left behind, the part that too many miss, a quiet key that unlocks everything. When you understand this, you won't chase anymore. You won't beg. You'll know, because there is a version of you right now, calm, fulfilled, blessed, and they're not trying. They're allowing. If that version feels far away, if you've been stuck between trying and hoping, then this message found you for a reason. And as Neville said, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. But to do that, you must first become still. And in that stillness, you will feel the shift begin. Welcome to Ignis Mindset, where your inner fire meets quiet power. If you're ready to explore what most people never see, if you're ready to rise without force, then subscribe and join a growing movement of those who know you don't need to fight for what's already yours. You just need to relax and allow. Before we talk about the power of imagination, we must understand the law that makes it all work, the law of assumption. Neville Goddard taught that life does not respond to your desires. It responds to your assumptions. What you assume to be true, your world begins to reflect, not because of some outer force, but because your inner world is the only true cause. He said assumptions, if persisted in, will harden into fact. It's not a question of if, it's only a matter of when. The law of assumption works like a silent architect. While you're worrying, doubting, questioning, it continues building, not what you want, but what you believe. This is why so many people feel stuck. They speak about what they want, but deep down they assume they can't have it. They say, I want to be wealthy, but inside they assume wealth is for other people. They say, I want love, but assume they're not worthy. They say, I want peace, but keep assuming life is always a struggle. Neville taught that if you want to change your life, You don't change the world, you change your assumptions about the world. You don't chase results, you assume they already belong to you. And this assumption isn't just a thought, it's a feeling. It's the emotional acceptance that what you desire has already happened. He called this assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's a subtle shift, but it's everything. Instead of imagining what you want as something in the distance, you bring it close. You step into it, you feel it as real. Now, Neville wasn't asking you to pretend. He was asking you to believe so deeply, so confidently, that your entire body responds as if it's already yours. It's not about fake positivity. It's about inner certainty. When you assume something to be true, your subconscious begins to accept it. And when the subconscious accepts, the world begins to rearrange. People call it coincidence. Neville called it creation. He said man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. In other words, nothing is happening outside you. Everything is being shaped from within you. And now we come to the real engine behind this law, imagination. Before we talk about the outer changes, we must go deeper into this hidden tool. Neville believed imagination is not just daydreaming. It is the very substance of reality. It is the power that forms your world. While most people think imagination is just for children or artists, Neville taught that imagination is your direct line to creation. He said imagination is God in action. But here's the part most people miss. Imagination must be used deliberately, not just when you're bored, not just to escape, but as a focused living tool. Think of your imagination like a seed. Whatever you plant in it with feeling must grow, and it's not limited by logic. Neville often told the story of people who changed their circumstances using nothing but inner vision. One woman imagined walking out of her job with confidence. Every night before bed, she saw herself leaving the office, smiling, grateful, though in real life she felt stuck and overlooked. Within weeks, she was offered a new position somewhere else. Better pay, better environment. She didn't chase it. She assumed it. She felt it, and it came. Another man imagined hearing his friends congratulate him on buying his dream home, though he had no money, no plan, and no clear opportunity. Still, he returned to that inner scene each night, hearing the voices, feeling the keys in his hand, and through a series of events he couldn't have predicted, he found himself signing the deed. Neville called this living in the end. You don't imagine how it will happen. You imagine it has already happened. You relax into the feeling that it is already done. This is not delusion. This is alignment. The world follows your imagination, not your logic, because what you feel deeply and persistently within must become visible without. Neville warned that if you misuse imagination by constantly worrying, fearing, doubting, you will still create, but what you create will reflect your inner chaos. Imagination is always creating. The only question is, are you directing it or letting it run wild? When you begin to use it consciously, things change fast. Time bends, people shift, paths open, not because you forced it, but because you assumed it. This is the silent key that opens every locked door. It's why two people can live the same life, but one feels free and the other feels trapped. It's not their job. It's not their income. It's their assumptions. It's what they've imagined over and over, whether they knew it or not. Neville encouraged people to take time every day, not just to think, but to imagine with intent. To shut the door, become still, and enter the scene of your fulfilled desire. He said the best time is just before sleep, when your mind is quiet and more open. He called it the state akin to sleep. It's here when you're half awake that your assumptions are most powerful. You can rewrite your inner world in those moments, and the outer world will have no choice but to follow. So when you feel lost or unsure, don't ask what's missing. Ask what you've been assuming. When you feel lack, shift into the assumption of already having. When you feel doubt, shift into the feeling of already being, not because you're pretending, but because you understand what you assume with feeling becomes your world. This is the work. not chasing, not waiting, but relaxing, imagining, and allowing. The feeling is the secret, and imagination is the bridge. You don't need to force the future. You need only to feel it now. Living in the end is not a vague idea. It is the center of Neville Goddard's entire teaching. He believed that to manifest what you truly desire, you must begin by accepting that it already exists. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. This means shifting your inner world so completely that your mind, your emotions, and your reactions all align with the version of yourself who already has the thing you seek. Neville would often say, dare to assume you are what you want to be. This is not wishful thinking. It's a psychological transformation. When you live in the end, you no longer try to become something. You are it. You feel the relief. You think the thoughts of someone who already succeeded. You make choices from that place, not from doubt, not from lack, but from certainty. Let's say you want to be healthy. Living in the end doesn't mean repeating I am healthy while you still act and feel sick. It means truly identifying with the state of wellness. You close your eyes and feel the strength in your body. You hear people telling you how great you look. You feel light, whole, calm. You react to the world as someone who is already healed. This can be applied to anything: relationships, money, success, peace of mind. Neville said, you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality. That's the key. Sensory vividness. You don't just think about it, you feel it, you see it, you touch it in your imagination. To adopt this mindset, begin by identifying what it is you truly want. Be honest, not what others expect, not what you think is realistic, but the true desire buried beneath the surface. Then ask yourself, if I had this right now, how would I feel? Don't look for the answer in words. Look for the emotional experience. Is it joy, relief, gratitude, confidence? Now imagine a short scene that implies your desire has already been fulfilled. Something simple, a moment. For example, someone congratulating you, opening an email with good news, holding a key, seeing your name on a certificate, laughing with someone you love. Keep the scene short. Feel the emotions clearly. Return to this scene often, especially when your mind wants to worry or doubt. Neville emphasized that this inner scene becomes the blueprint for your future. You're not trying to force the world to change. You're changing your inner self, and the world must follow. When you live in the end, your energy shifts. You're no longer seeking. You're allowing. You're no longer begging. You're receiving. And the most powerful time to practice this is just before you fall asleep, what Neville called the state akin to sleep. This is a deeply relaxed condition, when your conscious mind quiets down and your subconscious becomes more receptive. The SH technique is simple, but deeply effective. At night, as you lie in bed and feel yourself drifting off, take that time to replay your imagined scene, the one that implies your desire is fulfilled. Keep it brief. Repeat it gently. Don't try to force emotion. Let the feeling grow naturally. If you're imagining a phone call with good news, hear the words. Feel the phone in your hand. Smile. Say thank you. If it's about love, imagine the hug. Feel their presence. Hear their voice. Let it be real to you. This relaxed state, right between wakefulness and sleep, is where your inner assumption drops into the subconscious. Neville said, what you feel as true will be externalized in your world. So you don't visualize to escape. You visualize to impress your mind with a new reality. Many people visualize with strain. They try too hard. They repeat the scene without belief. But such is not about effort. It's about surrender. You ease into the scene like it's a memory. You enjoy it. You feel it as real. You let it soak into you. The more often you do this, the faster your subconscious aligns with this new assumption. And that's when things begin to move. Not always through dramatic events, but often in subtle, unexpected ways. A conversation, a shift in your mood, an opportunity that just appears, a door that opens. You begin to meet the right people. You hear the right words. Your decisions change without thinking. All of it begins within, with assumption, with imagination, with the quiet moment before sleep. Neville taught that the external world is only a reflection. If you want to change what you see, change the image inside you. And the best time to do that is when your mind is most quiet, your body most still. Sets is not about controlling your dreams. It's about planting a seed in the subconscious so that it grows naturally. You don't need to think about how it will happen. Just return to the scene each night. Feel it, trust it, rest in it. This is living in the end. You walk through the world with the inner knowing that it is already done. You don't worry about timing. You don't measure progress. You don't argue with circumstances. You simply know. That knowing begins in the silence before sleep. That knowing is watered with every feeling of faith. That knowing becomes the bridge between who you were and who you already are. Neville said, all transformation begins with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. Then you must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you do this night after night, the world around you begins to take shape according to the picture you've held within. It's not magic, it's law. And those who dare to live in the end, those who practice the SS technique with quiet confidence, find themselves waking up in the world they once imagined. Trying too hard is often the very thing that pushes your desires away. Neville Goddard made it clear, manifestation does not come through struggle or strain. It flows when you allow, not when you force. When you try to make something happen through worry, through fear, through excessive action, you create resistance in the mind. Resistance is tension. It's the voice that says, what if this doesn't work, or I must get this done now? That pressure pulls you out of the state of the wish fulfilled and anchors you in the state of not having. Neville warned that effort, when born from doubt, keeps you away from the very thing you're seeking. He said, you do not get what you want, you get what you are. So if your state is one of need, of anxiety, of control, then that's what you continue to live. But when you trust the process, when you surrender the how and allow the feeling of peace to take over, you shift into receiving. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop doubting. You drop the fight. You release the inner argument. You stop checking when, where, or how it will happen. And instead you rest in the knowing that it already is. This is where true power lies. The seed you plant in imagination must be left undisturbed. Digging it up every day to see if it's growing only delays the harvest. Neville illustrated this truth many times. He spoke of individuals who imagined an outcome once, felt it as done, and let it go. Their results came not because they obsessed, but because they believed. Letting go means accepting that the unseen is more real than what you observe with your eyes. You begin to care more about your inner state than outer facts. This is why Neville emphasized the feeling, because feeling is the language of the subconscious. The subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't care about your plans or your goals unless they are infused with emotion. Feeling is the secret. Not any feeling, the one that matches your wish fulfilled. The feeling of joy, the feeling of confidence, the feeling of being loved, secure, successful, free. When you feel it deeply and sincerely, the subconscious begins to move. It picks up that signal and quietly reorders your world to reflect it. This is why you don't need to repeat affirmations endlessly without emotion. Words without feeling are like empty containers. It is not the repetition, but the emotional charge behind them that causes change. Neville would often say, feeling is the secret. If this assumption is persisted in until it becomes your dominant feeling, the attainment of your ideal is inevitable. So your job is not to wish harder, it's to feel better, to catch yourself when you begin to slip into fear or doubt and gently return to the feeling of having already received. You do this not through force, but through awareness. Pause, breathe, Ask yourself, what would I feel like right now if I already had what I wanted? And then feel it. Not to force it into the world, but to align your own inner state with what you seek. This is how you tune your mind like a frequency. You no longer need to chase. You attract. You don't beg. You allow. You don't force. You flow. Because your emotional state is the signal. And what you radiate, you receive. So if you feel frustrated, your world mirrors frustration. If you feel grateful, your world mirrors gratitude. If you feel wealthy, secure, loved, complete, your world begins to show you those reflections. The subconscious is always listening, not to your words, but to your emotional atmosphere. Neville encouraged people to live in the state of the answer, not the question. If you're always asking, when will it happen? You are living in uncertainty. But if you feel as if it has already happened, you anchor yourself in certainty and your world responds. Letting go of resistance also means trusting that the way your desire shows up may be unexpected. Neville never said to control every detail. He taught to define the end and let life unfold naturally. If you imagine being promoted, don't worry about who will say what or which day it will happen. Feel the joy, feel the confidence, feel the moment of success as if it's already done, and let it go. This kind of detachment is not indifference. It is faith. It is believing that your assumption has been accepted by the deeper mind, and that life is already rearranging itself to make it so. The more you feel it, the more real it becomes to you, and the less effort you need. It's a paradox. The less you try to make it happen, the faster it comes, because you're no longer getting in your own way. Think of a river. When you float, you move effortlessly. But when you swim against the current, you exhaust yourself and go nowhere. Manifestation works the same way. The current is your belief. The direction is set by your feeling. And resistance is the only thing that keeps you stuck. So let go. Trust that what you have imagined with conviction has already begun. Continue to feed your inner world with the right feelings, not because you're trying to get something, but because you are now being someone. The one who already has, the one who already knows, the one who simply allows. What you say to yourself silently and constantly is shaping your world more than anything outside of you ever could. Neville Goddard placed great emphasis on the power of inner speech. He called it your mental conversation, and according to him, it's not just idle chatter, it is creation in motion. Every time you rehearse a scene in your head, whether consciously or unconsciously, you are planting seeds in your subconscious. You are laying the foundation for future experiences. Most people don't realize they are creating their reality through the words they repeat silently all day long. It's not only the thoughts that matter, it's the tone, the emotion, the attitude behind them. If your internal voice is full of fear, anger, doubt, or guilt, then you will start to see these feelings reflected outwardly. The outer world becomes a mirror of your inner conversations. Neville said, your inner speech is perpetually written all around you in happenings. Learn to relate the happenings of the day to your inner speech. In other words, the world shows you what you've been saying in secret. If you constantly tell yourself, I never get what I want, this is hard, or no one notices me, then those exact scripts get acted out in real life. People overlook you. Things feel difficult. Your desires remain distant. But when you shift your inner voice, when you begin to affirm, I always receive what I need, things unfold easily for me, or I am seen, valued, and chosen, then the world shifts with it. Neville encouraged people to take mental conversations seriously. He saw them not as harmless daydreams, but as the blueprint of future facts. One of his students had the habit of imagining conflict with her family. She would replay old arguments in her head. Without realizing it, she was renewing and recreating those experiences. When she learned, revised those conversations, and imagined love, understanding, and peace, her relationships changed dramatically. It's not magic. It's cause and effect, but on an invisible level. That's why Neville urged people to take control of their mental diet, to not allow negative words, even silently, to go unchecked. Your inner speech must align with the world you want, not the one you fear. A powerful practice is this. Before sleep, revise your day. Go over any conversation or situation that didn't go as you desired. But instead of replaying the disappointment, change the memory in your imagination. Hear the words you wish had been said. Feel the resolution, the kindness, the success. As far as your subconscious is concerned, that new scene becomes your reality. This technique isn't about lying to yourself. It's about redirecting the creative force of your mind away from limitation and toward fulfillment. Your inner voice becomes your future environment. So you must guard it, not with fear, but with awareness. Now think of persistence, not as repeating something 100 times, but as staying loyal to the idea you've chosen, regardless of what the outside world shows you. Neville was clear. Faith is the ability to see the end while walking through the middle. It is remaining anchored to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when your senses contradict it. He taught that every desire, once imagined clearly and emotionally, is already a reality in a higher dimension. Your job is to remain faithful to that unseen reality, not to create it, but to accept it. This is why so many people fail to manifest. They start with hope, then give in to doubt. They shift their assumption the moment life appears unchanged. They move from belief to disbelief too easily. But persistence means choosing the assumption of your wish fulfilled and not letting go. It is not blind stubbornness, it is inner loyalty. Neville often used the example of a woman who imagined a successful outcome in court. She lived in that feeling until it was done in her heart. Yet days passed, and the situation worsened. But she persisted. She did not go back on her mental image. Finally, against all logic, the case turned in her favor. This is the power of persistence, remaining unmoved by appearances, and faithful to your inner world. Faith is not about religion or ritual. In Neville's teaching, faith is the psychological ability to trust your imagination over your senses. It is the decision to dwell in the end regardless of the delay. He said, faith is loyalty to unseen reality. That means you do not let the outer world convince you that your inner world is untrue. You stay in the state, you remain in the assumption, and let life catch up. Sometimes it's fast. Sometimes it takes time. But if you persist, it must come. Doubt is what resets the process. You imagine having your desire, then you check reality and say, it's not here yet. That act alone takes you out of the fulfilled state. But when you decide that your assumption is real, even if nothing proves it yet, you create a bridge of events that will lead to its fulfillment. Neville's stories were filled with examples of people who persisted in imagination long after logic said, give up. And those were the people who saw the greatest changes. They weren't the ones who hoped. They were the ones who knew. They didn't just wish, they claimed. They said within themselves, this is mine, I don't need to see it yet. I only need to feel it and remain faithful to it. That kind of inner certainty bends reality over time. So combine the two. Use constructive mental conversations throughout your day, and pair that with unwavering persistence in your assumptions. If your mind slips, bring it back. If fear arises, notice it. Then choose again. Choose words that match your dream. Choose feelings that align with your desire. Choose thoughts that build you up instead of break you down. Because in Neville's teaching, you are always creating. Not once a day, not only during visualization, but every moment through your inner talk and your emotional state. And the world is listening. A man imagines himself in a new job. He doesn't know how it will come about. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He simply feels it is done. Each day he walks, speaks, and acts from the belief that this role is already his. Without pushing, without forcing, circumstances begin to shift. A conversation, a referral, an offer, seemingly out of nowhere. But he knows it was never random. He lived in the end, and the end came forward to meet him. Neville Goddard's teachings are not just theories. They are meant to be lived, practiced, tested in the small details of everyday life. From the parking space you want to find, to healing relationships, to financial freedom, the principle remains the same. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and remain faithful to that assumption. A woman troubled by her child's behavior does not lecture or panic. Instead, she goes into the quiet of her room and imagines her son as kind, calm, and respectful. She doesn't argue with reality. She sows a new image within. A few days later, the child begins to respond differently. Not because she forced a change, but because she shifted her internal picture and the outer followed. Daily life offers constant opportunities to apply these principles. Standing in line, imagine something good awaiting you at the end. Walking to work, hear in your mind the compliments and results you desire. Paying a bill, instead of worry, feel gratitude and sufficiency. These small acts of inner creativity begin to alter your emotional state, your energy, and eventually your outcomes. Neville taught that the subconscious accepts the reality of what you feel to be true. So the aim isn't to try harder, it's to feel better, to assume calmly, consistently, and with faith. If you want to improve your health, don't focus on the symptoms. Imagine the version of you who is strong, vibrant, and whole. Walk as they would walk. Think as they would think. Not to impress others, but to impress that image on your subconscious. You are never asked to deny reality, but you are invited to look beyond it, to give more attention to what you want than what you fear, to rest in the possibility even when there's no proof. Someone may say, but I've tried imagining and nothing changed. To that, Neville would ask, did you persist in the state, or did you check the facts and fall back into doubt? True application is not a one-time visualization. It's the quiet decision, repeated over and over, to occupy the new state of being. A man once imagined being debt-free. Every time he looked at bills, he didn't collapse into fear. He mentally blessed each envelope and said, thank you, because you are leaving my life. Thank you for the provision that covers this. And slowly, without extra income, his expenses began to reduce. His debts were cleared and opportunities appeared. Not because he panicked, but because he assumed his freedom first, and the world conformed. You do not need to control events. You only need to control your inner reactions. That is where your power lies. When applied consistently, these teachings become second nature. You no longer ask, will it happen? You live as though it has, and in that attitude, life becomes more fluid, more generous, more aligned. Your mornings become different when you begin the day from the state you want to live in. Instead of waiting for the world to give you a reason to be happy, you bring the emotion first and let reality catch up. Even when things seem delayed, you can choose trust. Neville often said, it is done, not because he was pretending, but because in consciousness, the moment you feel it real, it is already accomplished. This doesn't mean you never face challenges. It means your responses become different. Instead of reacting with fear, you retreat inward, revise the image, and return with faith. Life becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about staying aligned with your inner assumptions. You might be walking through a difficult chapter now, but your feelings are not prisoners of your circumstances. You can choose right now to feel the relief, the success, the joy that belongs to the outcome you desire. And in doing so, you begin to call it forward. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about selecting the feeling that matches what you want and carrying it with you like a lamp, even in the dark. Neville did not promise instant change. He promised certain change if the assumption is held firmly, consistently, and without contradiction. This is why he said, do not condition it. Just go to the end. If you want peace, assume peace. If you want love, feel loved. If you want success, walk in the spirit of success. It is not what you see, it's what you dwell on inwardly that makes all the difference. Many people hear this and believe it only works for others. But Neville taught that imagination does not discriminate. It works for the faithful, not the religious, not the clever, but the faithful. Those who stay true to their inner picture, regardless of outer noise. So take these teachings into your daily experience. Use them not as escape, but as tools for transformation. Let your mornings be guided by assumption. Let your thoughts be filtered through love and expectancy. Let your inner talk uplift, not sabotage. Even when the world offers you reason to fear, return to your chosen state. Feel the end. Live the end. Trust the end. And rest in the knowing that it is done. This is the path Neville walked and taught. A path not of struggle, but of surrender, not of effort, but of inner alignment. And anyone, yes, anyone can walk it. Because the real secret is not in doing more, it's in being still, being certain, and allowing life to reflect who you've already decided to. So now you've seen what Neville Goddard really taught. It's not about striving. It's not about begging. It's about being. You assume the end, you feel the result, and then you rest in it. We explored how the law of assumption works, that what you believe and consistently feel to be true becomes your world. We learned about the power of imagination, not just as daydreaming, but as the creative force behind everything. You discovered how to live in the end, acting from the reality you want, not toward it. We went through the SEH technique, the quiet moment just before sleep, where your mind is soft and open, ready to receive your deepest impressions. We also talked about letting go, not giving up, but giving up control, releasing doubt, releasing fear, and trusting that once you've imagined it and felt it, the wheels are already turning. You now understand that feeling is the secret. Your emotions are the gateway to your subconscious, and what you feel long enough, hard enough, and calmly enough becomes fact. You heard about the power of mental conversations, that what you say in your mind is as powerful as any spoken word. And you saw that persistence and faith are not optional. They're the bridge between your assumption and your result. Everything you need is already within you. The only thing left is to trust it. Don't rush. Don't doubt. Just relax and allow even what looks impossible can begin to move in your favor when you stay faithful to your inner world. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Ignis Mindset, for more powerful teachings like this. Your journey is already unfolding. Keep going.